We're here on the banks of the River Avoca, just close to where it enters the sea. So in the upland areas, you obviously have the bogs, the blanket bogs and the peat, and that gives an acidic sort of river. You have the fast flowing, you'll have species like dipper and things like that are attracted to well oxygenated water. And then we have a few key species that are very much come to naturalise the area. So we have woodpeckers. And woodpecker, of course, the great spotted woodpecker, recolonised itself naturally to Wicklow, and its stronghold is around the Avonmore River Valley. And that's really, I suppose, a magical sound, and one that's great to see after an absence of a couple of hundred years, to have that back in the valley. And another one, of course, is the red kite that can often be seen around the Avoca area. And that was brought back via reintroduction programme with the Golden Eagle Trusts in 2007. And that has really firmly taken hold in the Avoca area, and using the woodlands. It's a bird that would nest high in the trees, and then would use the surrounding landscape a lot for just scavenging, and uses the mosaic of agricultural land along with woodland is really good for that bird. And then I suppose we have things like buzzards. Again, 20, 30 years ago, we had very few buzzards. Now we do have buzzards, and they can be, again, would nest in the high trees, and you search for rodents and hunt for rodents in the ground below. And then it's also important for owls, of course. So owls are a species that are under a lot of threat these days, and they're known for there. And then we obviously have things like peregrine falcon. So we have this whole very rich array of the songbirds, and then the larger birds of prey. And then I suppose when we look at the actual, what we call the river species of birds, there'd be a few key ones that would come to mind. The goosander, I suppose, is a very rare bird. I suppose its only breeding site is in Wicklow, so we're very lucky to have this bird. It's a fish-eating duck, basically. It's an unusual one that nests in trees. There's studies underway at the moment. We think we have a few breeding pairs along the Avonmore River. And that's a tract that eats fish, so it really needs this healthy environment of fish to survive. Other notable ones, we have the dipper, which would be mostly in the upper reaches of the river, and that's because it likes the fast flowing, and it dives down into the water to get the fish or the caddisfly or whatever it is it's feeding on. And then obviously we have the kingfishers, which everybody loves to see, a beautiful dash of colour. They need the banks of the rivers where they make their nests. So around the middle to lower reaches of the river, you will get the kingfishers as well. And then the other one that's worth mentioning, I suppose, is the grey wagtails. They're fabulous. You get grey all over, but with this yellow understory. And you'd get the yellow flash of them. And they can be seen all over the river, really, right down as far as Aughrim here. And they really rely on the insects. So it's having this natural habitat where you have scrub is really important. It's riparian vegetation at the edge of the river. And then further up, all the woodland cover is really important for species like this.
But these keystone species, or ecosystem engineers, as we call them, they'll form the basis of the ecosystem for all the finfish, and they love to grow in around kelp forests and so forth. Like when the herring shoals come, they need kelp to lay their eggs on. If they don't have kelp, you won't have herring. And people need to be able to make that connection. If you don't have forests upstream, you won't have oysters. Because the forests actually feed the oysters indirectly through nutrients that they release into the water.
Until we all decide that water quality is important, and we all decide that the way we live our lives is important, because everything eventually ends up in the river. It doesn't matter if you're in your back garden spreading pesticides, or if you're digging a field close to water, it's all flowing. Everything that you see on the land is all flowing to the river. So everything that we do impacts it. And I think if we can just keep raising awareness and ask people to preserve biodiversity, encourage biodiversity. It provides the buffers to water, it encourages the animals that live around the water, and I think it's one of the key aspects that needs to be encouraged.